Good morning from lovely Providence, Rhode Island. I'm Phillip Heilman from the Florida Times Union and Jacksonville.com. It's game day. The Jaguars will be facing the New England Patriots in the AFC Championship game in still several more hours away. It's 7:45 a.m. here. Kickoff is 3:05 p.m. Let me just pull up this Facebook Live, make sure we're cooking. So obviously a huge game day. The Jaguars are in the AFC title game for the first time since the 1999 season. Conversely, for the Patriots, it's their 7th straight. That's sort of what happens when you have a duo like Coach Bill Belichick and quarterback Tom Brady. Speaking of Brady, he's been the biggest storyline of the week. How's his thumb? It was injured during practice Wednesday. Apparently, it was cut in some way, some fluke incident during practice. Reports out, I believe, by Pro Football Talk, excuse me if I'm wrong, yesterday, said the culprit was running back Rex Burkhead, who ran into Brady's hand by accident during a drill. Apparently there was quite a bit of blood and possibly required stitches. No ligament, tendon, or bone damage, according to reports. So Brady is slated to start today against the Jaguars. The key thing will be just how effective is he. When you have an injury to your thumb, more so than any other finger, you have a tough time as a quarterback gripping the ball. Obviously, when you hold a ball like that, your thumb's the bottom of it, and it is almost like the fulcrum. So that, to me, would seem to indicate that there's a vulnerability for forced fumbles. And obviously, Yannick Ngakoue, a guy who had 6 during the regular season, he led the NFL. That's sort of his specialty. He had one last week against Pittsburgh that led to the 50-yard touchdown for Telvin Smith to put the Jaguars up big in the first half. They obviously held on to get here. So that's one thing to keep in mind. We'll be watching that during pregame warmups to see how Tom Brady's been how he is throwing. Doesn't seem like he's thrown a lot during practice this week. Obviously, he spoke to the media, I believe on Friday, was very, very short in his answers, refused to talk about the thumb, how it happened, what his expectations were. That's kind of what you'd expect from a Bill Belichick coach team. But anyhow, so last week when I was in Pittsburgh, we went through the Post-Gazette a few times, just sort of looking at what the local coverage was like. Obviously today I'm in Providence, so when you're covering a game in New England, you can sort of go one of two routes. A lot of people go through Boston, a lot of people go through Providence, so we don't have the Boston Globe with us today, which we've been running a little bit in the Times Union this week, but we do have the Providence Journal. A lot of people have reached out to me about Dan Shaughnessy's column, the Boston Globe columnist, which ran in the Times Union this week, saying essentially, like, give us a break. Jacksonville, obviously, the Jaguars are not going to win. I thought it was an interesting column, just sort of, that's kind of a columnist's job, is to get people talking, and he did. Some people thought it was lazy, but, to each his own. Anyhow, a really cool front page here today in the Providence Journal. Hopefully, if I hold this up, we can get to it. Trying to follow live on my own, but anyhow, so we've got Pats versus Cats. Obviously, the Patriots versus the Jaguars. And the underlying type is, when the Jacksonville Jaguars came to practice with the Patriots at Gillette Stadium last August, their coach's take on the whole thing was downright reverential. 5 months later, they're showing formidable feline pride. Will it matter? So a pretty cool way to do it. Obviously, you've got the Patriots' 5 Lombardi trophies from their 5 Super Bowls versus a sort of upstart Jags team, and that's kind of been an interesting storyline this week. Is going back in August, it was a fun joke to make. Here's an AFC Championship preview. These two teams, hopefully they save something during these joint practices, for the AFC title game. A lot of jokes. Obviously, the Jaguars were coming off a 3-13 season. The Patriots were the defending champions, so the jokes kind of told themselves, but here we are. Talking to Doug Murray this week about those 2 days. So it was the Jaguars practiced 2 days with the Patriots. I believe had a day off there, 2 off, and then had the preseason game, which the Jaguars won, but not many starters played. The one thing that stood out to me about that preseason game was the first time that we saw Keelan Cole make a long play. It was I believe a 97-yard touchdown maybe from Chad Henne. So that kind of perked your ears up a little bit about Keelan Cole. Corey Grant also had, I believe, a fake punt play. Anyhow, he had some sort of big game, which he's also been instrumental this season with the fake punts. But anyhow, I thought that was pretty cool. The quote from the story from Doug Marone is, look, I think when you look at the history, everyone understands what they are and what they've done. That's obviously about the Patriots. He goes on to say we have a great deal of respect for their coaches and their players. It's a fact. I don't think you have to talk very much. I think everybody knows it. So here's sort of the inside page, which is Tom Brady and Blake Bortles. A quick shout out, if you haven't seen it already, today's special section in the Florida Times-Union takes a look at the difference in Tom Brady and Blake Bortles. Obviously, from an on-field perspective, couldn't be much more different. Tom Brady, 5 Super Bowls. Blake Bortles, none. Tom Brady, a dozen AFC title games, it feels like. Blake Bortles, just 1. Tom Brady, the supermodel wife. Blake Bortles, no supermodel wife yet, but he's still young. He still has time to get there. Tom Brady's famous friend, Alex Guerrero, obviously his personal trainer, which came up a lot in ESPN's takeout piece a couple of weeks ago. Blake Bortles' most famous friend might be center Brandon Linder. They're obviously very close. Brandon Linder's a $65 million man. So I definitely encourage you, if you haven't already, go check that out. It's on newsstands. It's on Jacksonville.com. You can click through the whole thing. But for me, I'm going to grab a couple issues just as a commemorative edition. Whether the Jaguars win later this afternoon or not, there's no telling when the Jaguars will be back here again. Back in the '99 season, the Jaguars had a 4-year run of success that was on par with pretty much any team in the AFC. Then it takes 18 years to get back to this point. So I think it's important for fans and just sort of anybody in Jacksonville to kind of commemorate and just enjoy these moments, because they're very fleeting. You never know when they're going to happen again. There's very few teams or franchises like the New England Patriots who do it year after year after year. So, I would encourage you to go get a paper. Obviously, it helps us a little bit, but I just think these are fun times. Why not remember them? Go into the sports section today. The centerpiece story is on Providence, obviously, multi-sport town. You kind of have that. The Friars are doing pretty well, it looks like. Then we've got a story up top here on Patriots tight end Rob Gronkowski. Ryan O'Halloran took a look at Gronkowski earlier this week for the Times-Union, just sort of how the Jaguars will play him. There was a lot of talk early in the week, will Jalen Ramsey follow him, that sort of thing. That seems to have dissipated a little bit just because it just seems like a pretty, an interesting idea, almost foolish, because there's so many places where they could put Gronkowski on the line where Ramsey just certainly can't follow him. It would just change the entire defense. This is a defense that was number 1 in the league in passing allowed for a reason, but I think you will see Ramsey follow Gronk on some third downs and in the red zone, so it will be interesting to see. The story in the Providence Journal is Gronkowski has a new diet. It says Rob Gronkowski knew he needed to make a change for the sake of his career. That became obvious a year ago. Before his 28th birthday, he went under the knife for the 3rd time. It looks like he's more of into nuts and that sort of thing, so that's kind of interesting. Anyhow, on the inside page here, we've got Pat's Game Day. Not a color page, but you can still see a picture of Jalen Ramsey, who up here is slowly becoming almost public enemy number 1. I think Patriots fans will be the first to tell you that if the Jaguars are going to win, it's probably going to be because of their pass rush and because their secondary locks down the Patriots receivers, and Jalen Ramsey is where it starts. Now, I'll just take a quick little run. So we did the same thing today, just taking a position-by-position look. Let's just see what they had. When the Patriots run, Deion Lewis tied for the league lead in rushing in the second half of the season. Against the Titans in the divisional round, he averaged 4.1 yards on 15 carries. It looks like the Patriots will also get back Rex Burkhead. The edge goes to the Patriots. When the Patriots pass, Brady threw for 337 yards and 3 touchdowns last week against the Titans. Opposing quarterbacks averaged 170 yards per game against the Jaguars because of, mostly Jalen Ramsey and A.J. Boye. Edge still goes to the Patriots. I agree with the Patriots' run game. The Jaguars have been better since they traded for Marcel Darius, but Deion Lewis, Rex Burkhead, James White, they do a lot of good things. In the passing, I don't know. Like I said, the Jaguars were first in the league against the pass. Obviously, you're going against Tom Brady, but it depends on the thumb. Last year, the Patriots won one for the thumb, their 5th title, and this year they're going to be winning one almost despite his thumb, if they do, because, how much will it bother him? Who knows? When the Jaguars run, the Jaguars are a run-heavy offense, leaning on rookie Leonard Fournette. Jacksonville is the top-ranked run offense in the NFL. The group also includes Chris Ivory and T.J. Yeldon. The Patriots' run defense was up and down this season. It's seen big games from backs like Kenyon Drake, LaShawn McCoy, and Le'Veon Bell, but they did shut down Derrick Henry last week, the Yulee Bulldozer. So they give the edge to the Jaguars. 2-1 Patriots. When the Jaguars pass, I'll just go ahead and spoil it. The Patriots get the edge here. Devin McCourty, Stephon Gilmore, Malcolm Butler, Patrick Chung, Daron Harmon, and Eric Rowe. Those are sort of the guys to know in the Patriots secondary. Butler on one side, Stephon Gilmore on the other as cornerbacks. McCourty's kind of their captain/leader from the safety spot in the back. Patrick Chung will come up more in the run game. You'll probably see him and hear his name quite a bit going against Leonard Fournette. My guess would be Patrick Chung will be right up there in the lead with Landon Roberts and Kyle Van Noy in terms of tackles today for the Patriots. Daron Harmon, a third safety. The Patriots use a lot of 3 safety looks, which most teams don't do. He functions almost as another cornerback, but it is sort of interesting to see 3 safeties on the field. Special teams, this is an interesting one, which they took a cop-out. Lewis averaged 24.8 yards per return this season, scoring a touchdown on a 103-yard return. Jacksonville kicker Josh Lambeau signed in October and was solid, connected on 95% of his field goals, 19 out of 20, and he's made 91.7% of his point after touchdown. So, edge, they call it even. All right, I'll give it some. Special teams is really hard to say, to give a, who's better. It's very difficult. Anyhow, one thing that they did point out, which I agree with, is Josh Lambeau has been very effective since the Jaguars signed him. Jason Myers struggled early in the season. The Jaguars decided to make a move. At the time, it seemed like, maybe not that big of a deal. Jason Myers hadn't cost them a game yet. But you get to a point like last week against Pittsburgh. The Jaguars are up by 7 late in the fourth quarter. You bring Lambeau on for a 45-yard field goal. Swirling conditions, pretty cold. He knocks it right through, essentially wins them the game. The Steelers probably weren't going to score twice with the limited amount of time they have left. Coaching. This one kind of goes without saying. Bill Belichick's won 5 Super Bowls. It reads, Bill Belichick is the most accomplished coach in NFL history. He has a record 27 playoff wins. Meanwhile, Jaguars coach Doug Marrone has 26 career regular season wins. But Marrone is 2-0 in the playoffs, these playoffs. Belichick has an NFL record 7 conference championships and could add to that Sunday. Like every game, Belichick has an edge over the opposing coach. So they give the edge to the Patriots. And in the scoring prediction, they predict, the Providence Journal predicts, Patriots 27, Jaguars 20. Last week, in the Times Union, Ryan O'Halloran, John Reed, and myself picked the Steelers. We, of course, were wrong. This week, Ryan O'Halloran, John Reed, and myself picked the Jaguars. Gene Fournette, who last week said that he liked the Jaguars against the Steelers, he picked the Patriots this week in a close one. I haven't had a great feel for this team prediction-wise all season long, it feels like. The Jaguars alternated wins and losses for the first 7 weeks, and I think I was 1 week behind every time. I thought they would lose to Houston. I thought they would, come back and win in Tennessee. I thought they would lose in Pittsburgh. I thought they would come back home and beat the Rams. I thought they would win against the Jets. I was wrong all season long. Caught a little bit of a hot streak late in the season, but it just feels like one of those games where if Brady is impaired at all with the thumb, I think the Jaguars have a real chance. We were on a conference call. I was on a conference call with Ryan O'Halloran and a few other sports writers with CBS analyst Tony Romo earlier this week, and I thought he made a really fantastic point about why the Jaguars' defense has a chance to slow down New England's offense in a way they did in Pittsburgh's offense last week. Obviously, the Steelers scored 42 points, but Romo's point was the Steelers, their offense is a very vertical passing game. We saw that the long touchdowns to Antonio Brown twice, the long touchdown to Martavis Bryant, even a long throw to Le'Veon Bell, their running back. New England's offense is not built that way. New England's offense is a horizontal passing attack. You're looking at quick throws to Deion Lewis and James White out of the backfield. Hot routes to Danny Amendola, even Brandon Cooks, a lot of screens, that sort of thing. Really, Gronkowski, and to a lesser degree Cooks, are the only guys who really go down vertical, down the field. So what's the difference there? Well, the Jaguars have a very, very fast defense, and that's been one of the reasons that they've been so effective this season. I dare you to find a more athletic duo at the linebacker position in the league than Myles Jack and Telvin Smith. So when you're facing an offense that throws a lot of horizontal passes that don't travel even to the line of scrimmage or much farther than the line of scrimmage, the offense is essentially banking on the fact that there's run after the catch. So that means it's going to be absolutely critical that Telvin Smith and Myles Jack and Tashawn Gibson, if he plays today, and Barry Church, and basically everybody don't miss a lot of tackles. The Jaguars have the speed to get there. They have the speed to, make gains that were, 7, 8, 10 yards for the Patriots in the past, only 2 or 3 yards. They just can't miss tackles. I think if the Jaguars do win, You know, a lot of people have been talking about the 2 previous Super Bowls that Tom Coughlin was a part of with the Giants beating the Patriots. The one that really comes to mind for me is last year's Super Bowl, which of course the Patriots came back and won. But in the first half, Tom Brady and the Patriots offense really struggled with the speed of Atlanta's defense. Keanu Neal, a University of Florida guy. Brian Poole, a University of Florida guy. Vic Beasley, a defensive end. Guys who are very, very fast. You know, Brady didn't have time. His receivers couldn't get open. The separation that they normally had that their offense functions because of wasn't there. The Patriots went down 28-3. They had the biggest comeback in Super Bowl history. I'm not saying that it's going to get that far out of hand, but that is almost a perfect scenario for the Jaguars defense, is to have, you know, that sort of blueprint where Tom Brady's not used to this sort of speed. The first 2 or 3, 4 or 5 possessions, you know, has a tough time getting going. Maybe 1 touchdown drive, 1 field goal drive, you know, in the first quarter and a half. And you look up and at halftime it's, you know, 10-10 or 13-10 Jaguars or something. So the offense can make some plays. The farther the Jaguars can get into this game still being in it, the more confidence they're going to have. They opened as, I believe, a 9.5 point underdog. It went down to as little as 7.5. I think it's back up to 8 now. So this is a game that not many people, particularly Las Vegas, are expecting the Jaguars to even stay within a touchdown. But the longer they do, the more this young team, I believe, is going to have a belief that they can win. So I think that'll be really interesting. Just a couple more things worth watching and fast facts out of the Providence Journal. For the worth watching is cornerback Jalen Ramsey, as I mentioned. Guys, people here are very high on him. Drafted 5th overall out of Florida State in 2016, Ramsey was named first team All-Pro this season. The 6'2", 208-pounder has 128 tackles, 6 interceptions, an additional 25 passes defense in 32 career regular season games. Ramsey has an interception this postseason, which he predicted would end with the Jaguars winning Super Bowl 52. I take a little bit of exception with saying that Jalen Ramsey predicted or guaranteed anything. The point of topic is when Ramsey and the team came back to the field, to Everbank Field last week after beating the Steelers, he said, "We're going to go to the Super Bowl and we're going to win this bleep." To me, that's a young guy having fun in a spot that he's never been in before. I don't think that's a guarantee. I don't think it's a prediction, but I like his confidence. Fast facts. Sunday marks the 24th anniversary of Robert Kraft agreeing to purchase the Patriots. Geez, there's hardly been a more successful owner in the NFL history. The Jaguars are 8-0 when Blake Bortles doesn't commit a turnover, 4-6 otherwise. Interesting stat, but pretty much how it goes. You don't turn the ball over, you got a better shot. Patriots quarterback Tom Brady is 7-0 against the Jaguars with 17 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a 72.2 completion percentage. Brady's torched these guys. We've talked a lot through the years about how Phillip Rivers has given the Jaguars a hard time. Brady has as well. The last time these two teams played, the Jaguars lost 51-17. The Patriots didn't punt the entire game. That was several seasons ago, several decades ago, it feels like, several lifetimes ago for some guys, it feels like. Gus Bradley was the coach back then. Obviously, it's Doug Marrone now. There were still a few of the players who were there then are still here now, but they've been upgraded, you know, at every different spot with Calais Campbell, Yannick Ngakoue, Miles Jack, obviously Ramsey, the safeties, AJ Boye. So not much you can take from that. The Jaguars have scored 8 defensive touchdowns this year. I believe that's most in the league, and I think they've all come on the road, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a lot. You know, a game can change on a defensive play. You saw it last week. The Patriots are a league best 21-4 all-time at home in the playoffs. Obviously, Gillette's a tough place to play. The Jaguars are 5-4 on the road this season, and Jaguars linebacker Telvin Smith has 27 tackles in 2 playoff games after making 102 in the regular season. Like I said, I think it's going to be, you know, very, very critical that Telvin Smith has a good game. I think it's going to be very critical that the Jaguars linebackers as a whole have a good game. There's going to be opportunities for them to make plays near the line of scrimmage, and they need to. Let's see. Look at some comments here. Hello from Nassau County, Florida. Hi there, Marie. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you watched the game today. Love the time Zenon from John and Gordon. We don't get much of that, I'll tell you. Especially on Facebook, we don't have a lot of people talking about how much they love us, but we do appreciate the people who watch, who read, who click. We're doing the best we can. Obviously, a tough week with more layoffs in the newsroom, as you know, was written. So if you can, you know, support strong local journalism. We're doing the absolute best we can for Jacksonville, whether it comes to the Jaguars, whether it comes to City Hall, whether it comes to, you know, the local businesses. We're doing the best we can. So thank you, John. Blake Bortles after today will be known as Legend Killer, says B.E. Sherrick, I believe. He definitely has an opportunity. You know, there's a few camps of thought here. One is, will the stage just be too big for the Jaguars? Will You know, many teams have come into New England confident that they could win. You know, most recently Andrew Luck's Colts didn't have a chance. Could that happen? Maybe. On the other hand, this Patriots run of success is going to end at some point. Everything ends at some point. Nothing goes on forever. Could this be the day where you start to see a changing of the guard, where the Jaguars go to the Super Bowl this year and they build, you know, their own run of success? You know, we could be looking back in 10 or 15 years and say, you know, that's the day where everything really changed. So that'll be really interesting. Marlene says, Providence, Rhode Island. Go home, bring someone from Massachusetts that won't sit and read from a paper. In Boston, we know our sports. Okay, thanks, Marlene. I'm going to go ahead and... Alright. Well, Marlene, you have a picture of your dog, so maybe... Anyhow, I'm not going to get into that. Anyhow, thanks for watching, everybody. Here's one more look at... the AFC Championship game. I look at Rob Gronkowski, everything, but remember, opening line, Patriots open by 9.5. Patriots are 10-1 all time against the Jaguars. None of that matters. Kickoff, 3:05 p.m. today on CBS. It's going to be for a spot in the Super Bowl against the winner of the Minnesota-Philadelphia Eagles game, which will follow directly after. I believe it's 6:40, possibly on Fox. Zay, don't worry about it, Zay. That's okay. Everybody, maybe she had a bad morning. But anyhow, Jaguar special section in today's Florida Times-Union. As always, you can read all our coverage on Jacksonville.com. We'll be doing a ton of live updates on Twitter. You can follow me at Phillip_Heilman, at Ryan O'Halloran, at Gene Fournette, and I believe at John Reed 64. Last week we did a Periscope on the way to the stadium, on the way to Heinz Field. We'll probably do the same one today with 1010XL's Hayes Carline. So we'll be doing a lot of fun things, obviously a lot of excitement before game time, and then of course in tomorrow's newspaper we'll get absolutely as much as we can in. So thanks for watching, and enjoy the game.